What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. It's Shay. Thanks so much for tuning in where we talk about beauty, nursing, and lifestyle weekly. Today, guys, we are going to talk about a topic that is universal to everybody, and it is money. And I basically want to share with you guys my journey into debt and my journey getting out of debt, which is still occurring to this day. I think so many people get on this platform and they talk about their success and they talk about how grand they are and they talk about their strategic planning and they just put it all out here. But we don't understand that there was a backstory to that. There was a situation that got us into it. And sometimes if we can sit here and tell you guys the situations that got us into stuff, it might prevent you from even having to go through the planning that it takes to get out of it, if that makes any sense. So basically what I'm trying to say is people learn best from your mistakes. I'll be transparent with you guys today. I'm going to tell you how I got my little behind into debt, and I'm going to tell you how I'm getting out. So if you're interested, make sure you stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, and let's go. Alright guys, so my intro into debt is pretty much very simple. If you see me look down anytime during the video, I just wrote down some talking points to keep me on track so y'all don't have to hear my whole life story. But I was 18, 19, fresh out of high school, in college, and one thing my mom told me was you need to get your credit together. And the main way I seen that I need to get my credit together was the fact that I tried to buy a car at a young age, and I don't know what I was thinking. You cannot buy a car without credit. So gratefully, I was fortunate enough to have parents who said, look, we will put our name on here, but you need to pay these bills. And if you don't pay these bills, they're going to not only hurt you, but they're going to hurt us. So I had that fortune at 18, but I know that doesn't happen with everyone. Regardless, what my journey was to get credit. So the first thing I ended up doing, y'all, was I just started looking at all my options. My mom told me options for credit cards, things like that. I didn't really want to tackle into loans. Back in that time, I didn't have to worry about student loans because I had college for free. That quickly changed, trust me. So I applied everywhere I could, which was my first mistake because you guys know the more you apply, the more your points go down. But then it's hard in America because it's like, how do you get credit if you don't apply in the first place? And nobody wants to accept you because you don't got no credit. But how do you get credit if nobody wants to accept you? So it's a tough road. But I got my first credit account with Victoria's Secret. I don't know if it was the fact that when I was like between 16 and 18, I was working my jobs and I was making money on my little debit card, and I went Victoria's Secret, y'all, at least twice a month to rack up on whatever I could get, whether it's sprays, panties, things like that. But needless to say, they granted me my first account. And guys, granting your first credit account is like getting a boyfriend. And this is my favorite analogy. Once people see that you have someone, everyone wants you. And that's how it is with credit. Once one company accepts you, here come every company in America out the woodwork, y'all. And I'm telling you, it was places I've never shopped before. It's places that don't even exist in my state of New Jersey. It was credit companies I've never heard before, never, even crossed paths. It's like one account opened the door to millions. And this was my second mistake, y'all. My second mistake was thinking that everywhere that offered me an account or pre-approved, because that's what they say, you are pre-approved, I had to accept. So y'all, when I tell y'all I applied for so many credit cards and I did get accepted, I had so many accounts, y'all. I think when I first actually sat down and looked at my debt journey, when I was like, I got to do something, I had over 30 accounts of credit with companies that are like merchandise, credit companies. It was ridiculous, y'all. That was one of my biggest regrets. And it definitely revolved on my credit because one of the first big black warnings that came up when I was not accepted by someone was this person has too many revolving accounts. So if you guys hear anything in this video, the first thing I'm going to tell you is don't apply for everything that barks at you. Just like you don't get with every man that approaches you or courts you, don't get with every credit company that courts you. So I guess this can kind of get more into what other mistakes I made, guys. So my second mistake that I made was I did not do my proper research before applying for these accounts. So people think credit is just this free money that pops out of nowhere and you pay it back and you're fine. No, these companies gonna make sure they get their coin for you borrowing their money. So they're gonna include something called APR or interest. And one thing I can definitely tell people, and I say this to this day, credit cards aren't bad, credit accounts are bad. That's how you build credit. But you need to be smart and you need to do your research. Just like you do your research when you're going to school, you do your research when you're doing apartment hunting, car hunting, house hunting. You need to do your research even with the small adult things like credit. Because turns out, guys, a lot of these companies are charging you like 30 and 40% APR when you look at these details. And that is a lot of money. That means if like you have $100 account with someone and you use that full $100, they are charging you $30 or $40 or whatever the percentage is to use that $100. And they will get their money first. And that's when you get into these payments, guys. These payments that give you these minimal payments a month, I tell people I don't even try to look at the minimal payment anymore because I don't want to pay the minimum. The minimum payment will always go to what you owe the company first. So example, if I owe them $100 and I pay a $30 minimal payment, whatever percentage they have worked out, they're going to take their money that I owe them off the top, and really only like $10 or $15 is going to go actually to my account balance of $100, bringing that down. So they're taking their money off the top, y'all. Trust. When you owe them money, it's not easy game. So you definitely want to look at these interest rates. You definitely want to look at APRs. Do not, I repeat, if you have good credit, or you can find credit cards out here, do not go for companies that charge you annual fees or charge you monthly fees. Those are ridiculous to me. You're already charging me interest. Why the heck do I have to pay you a yearly fee to use some money? And guys, the sucky part about those two is I have a lot of accounts that I've paid off and I still get a bill once a year because I owe them an annual fee. I can't wait till my credit gets all intact in order so I can start canceling accounts. Not very wise decision, not something that's always recommended, but there's some accounts I gotta get rid of because it's just ridiculous. I'm not paying you $100 a year to borrow money from you on top of the interest that you're charging me. It's just crazy. So as I mentioned to you guys, if you're gonna get these credit lines, credit accounts, you need to be paying more than a minimal. What I do now today is the moment I use a card for something, one, I have to find a reason that's gonna benefit me. Most of the time that's like rewards programs and things like that, which I will touch on in the end. But second of all, I'm paying that account balance right back. So if I'm going to the store and I'm buying something for $200, I'm digging into my account and paying $200 on that credit card the next day because it's just, you want to stay ahead. I get some months you might be hard, especially I know with this pandemic, and you got to pay the minimum. Cool. But first thing I look at too is what accounts have the least balance. Like if I have an account with $200 and I have to pay the $25 or $30 minimal, I'd rather pay the minimal on that than a minimal on something that is like $1,000 because it's just the way, you know, the ratios and the math works. So now that I've shared with you guys my journey into debt and my mistakes that I've made, I want to give you guys a brief synopsis on what I'm doing currently and what kind of progress I've made. So about 2 years ago when I finally understood, I basically graduated nursing school. I had tons of student loans, but I also understood that I had crazy debt. And I really found this out when I went to go purchase my truck. I was able to get it under my credit, but I am going through, you know, some issues with the interest rate because I had credit where I had tons of revolving accounts. And I have plans, guys. I want to, you know, have a house. I want to do this. I want to do that. While my credit score is not like 300, it's certainly not 800. And my goal is to be at 800. I want that perfect score. I want that score that says she can get whatever she wants and almost have no interest to it, if there's interest needed at all. So in order to get there, I got to start digging myself out of this hole that I dug. So the first thing when you go on, guys, you're going to see all these things about all these people. The best person I think to get advice for debt-free journey and financial freedom is Dave Ramsey. Now, while his information is very universal, I can say to a lot of people, my Dave Ramsey approach has a little Shai way to it. And I'm going to tell you guys what I'm doing. It's not going to work for everybody, but it works for me, and this is what I do. So the first thing I did, I followed his first step approach, and I made sure I had an emergency fund. My emergency fund was not based off, I think he says there's $1,000. I needed an emergency fund that was going to protect me if my job called me today and said, don't come here no more, we don't want you. I needed to be able to suffice myself for at least 3 months, with including my rent, my car payment, and my bills, at least my 4 walls of that. So my savings account that I built before I even started tackling debt is equal to about 3 months of income. So I figured that's a good thing to say, you know, I have time to find another job if I need to, but I also have time to pay my bills and make sure I don't get myself into more debt or get kicked out of my home or my car repoed. So the second thing he usually talks about next is tackling your debt. You can do these in multiple different ways. If I'm able to tag one of his videos up here, I will. But there's a way where you can work from your top high balances down. There's a way you can work from your low balances up. And there's a way I think you can work from like interest rates. So I chose, just for my situation right now, to work from my low balances up. I found it easiest for me to tackle the small debts and get them out the way. And by doing this, guys, I was able to get from over 30 credit accounts to now only paying on 12. So that was the way that worked for me. The next thing I did, I know you guys are probably saying, well, how did you figure out what to pay for debt and what to, you know, supply your needs? I have a budget planner, and I sit down every month and I write down what he calls your 4 walls. So those are your basic necessities, my rent, my car payment, things like that. And then I get into what I owe. And when I get into what I owe, I pay all my bills personally. I get paid on a Thursday. My bills come out the day I get paid. Once I see my money hit my account, because you got to be careful sometimes, you never know if there's issues with, you know, direct deposit. As soon as I see my money hit my account, I go and I pay my bills for the next 2 weeks until I get paid again. After I pay my bills, and, you know, I get my 4 walls settled, I decide what money can be used for leisures, if that. I am currently on a no spend, and I occasionally do no spends, but there's times in my life where I have to give myself a little leeway, because if I don't spend a little, I'm going to end up spending a lot on something else, and that's just because I know myself. But a no spend is great. Anything that extra that you don't need, get it out the way. So the next thing I do is, okay, I went my 2 weeks, you know, my Thursday is about to come up, is Wednesday. I look at my bank account on Wednesday, and sometimes I'll map this out, but sometimes I don't have enough time. So I look at my bank account on Wednesday and I'll see, okay, this is how much money that I have left over from after I paid all my bills and I did all my other stuff from the previous 2 weeks. What kind of debt do I want to take this money and apply it to? So I go ahead and I look at my debts, and I make my debt payment based off that leftover money. Is it the smartest way? Probably not, but this is the way that has been getting me through for the last couple months, and it's also the way that I've been able to tackle from 30 to 12 accounts. Now, I know a lot of people say you should plan this out and you should pay your debts when you pay your bills on the day you get paid. That way you don't spend money equally, but I have like this certain, like, I guess I like to have a cushion. I like to have something that I know, like, if something random pops up, yeah, I do have my emergency fund, but I also have some money in my bank account. So that's just the way that I am. My plans starting in April are to actually do it the correct way, and the day I pay my bills, I also do my debt payments. That way I can kind of stay more in self-control and not do, you know, extra paying for like different stuff that I don't necessarily need. But like I said, it's a lot of self-discipline and wisdom, and there's also a lot of strategic planning included in paying your debts off. All right, guys, so we have talked about how I got myself into debt, what I did to help me get out, and I've told you guys that I've went from paying on over 30 accounts a month to only currently 12. And I know a lot of you are going to hear this today and be like, Shay, that is still crazy. You're crazy. I don't know what the heck you did. But like I said, mistakes are called mistakes for a reason, because they can be fixed. And mistakes include lesson learned. And that's why I'm sitting here and I'm sharing that information with you guys today, so you do not fall into the trap of your 20s. That's what I call it. But it's not just your 20s. I mean, you can fall into these traps at your 30s, at your 40s, at your 50s. But make sure you use your 20s wisely. So overall, I wanted to sum up everything with just including a couple points that if you don't pay attention to this video at all, these are the things I need y'all to know. So, first things first, Dames Ramsey is going to disagree with me when I say this, but credit is not bad, y'all. Credit cards aren't bad. Credit isn't bad. I know I spoke to you guys in the beginning of the video on how you can use credit to benefit you. So I talked about this in a previous video. One, you do your research, you look at your APRs, you look at your interest rates. You don't get cards that have annual payments and things like that are extra. But what you can do is you can look for those cards that have reward programs. I spoke on this a couple months ago. I have a card that has a reward program. Now, don't get me wrong, when I use this credit card, I pay it off the next day after I use it. By me using that credit card, I get points. And those points revolve into, gift cards and things like that. So I just got me like a $25 gift card to Target just by using a credit card and paying what I was going to pay anyway. So those are ways you can be smart if you're going to use credit. Just make sure you are paying off your debts as you use them. Don't let it pile up. Stay ahead of it. And that goes right into my other tip where I tell you guys, pay those balances down. Just like credit is not a horrible thing, it can get horrible if you're not staying on top. So as you spend, you pay. As you spend, you pay. If you don't think you can pay, don't spend it. If you need to spend it out of your account because you're not going to pay that off, spend it out your account and don't even worry about the credit. But as you spend, you need to pay down those balances. Like I told you guys, when they look at credit, they not only look at how many accounts you have, but they look at how much credit you have in ratio to how much you're using. It's called a utilization rate. Most of the times, don't quote me, I'm not a financial expert, your utilization rate should be less than 30%, which in my opinion, I think is ridiculous. I think they could have tweaked it to like 50, but that means you should not be using more than 30% of the credit that you have. So that's why it's important to pay down those balances on those accounts. Staying ahead is also important. That was mentioned in my last tip. And also, guys, save, save, save. Whatever money you are not using towards debt, if you have no debt, don't get into debt. Don't worry about that. Yes, you need credit, maybe a card here or there, just to, keep your credit rolling so that when you're ready for those big purchases, you have a background, but save that money. Guys, I literally cried when I first started my debt journey because you know how I got into reality with myself? I calculated how much money I paid towards debt for the last 4 years, and I calculated that money if I didn't have those accounts. I would have saved boo-hoo money, y'all. Like, I would have been rolling. Like, sis would have been paid if she didn't, get herself into debt. But as always, mistakes are mistakes for reasons. Lessons are learned for a reason. I am very blessed to be where I'm at today despite the mistakes that I've made. And you can be blessed too. You are blessed. You're here. You watching this video. That means you got some type of Wi-Fi, some type of phone. So you're here. And all we got to do, guys, is just get ourselves out of this mess. America, I feel like, was created to... I don't know, y'all, to get us into this craziness, but you just have to be smart, you have to be strategic, you have to be wise, and use self-control. All right, guys, so we're at the end of the video. I want to thank you so much for sitting down and listening to my journey and how I am getting it accomplished. As I spoke to you guys earlier, I definitely took a lot of time to sit down with this information. It is not something I could have figured out in my head. There's tons of apps available. I also like to use a budget planner. I will tag the video here. If you guys want an updated video on how I use that, I will be sure to give it to you if you request it. But overall, y'all, we are going to slay this debt. We're going to get out of debt. We are on a financial freedom journey. It's not something that happens overnight. A lot of people are dealing with the pandemic. Some people are out of work right now, and there's a lot of other circumstances that will make it hard for us to get things done, but we'll get it done. So if you like what you see today, make sure you comment down below. Make sure you subscribe and give me a thumbs up. If you have any recommendations of your own or ways you're getting out of your debt journey, share them down below in the comment box with the family. We want to all help each other out here. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in my next video.